This episode of the WP Builds podcast is brought to you by GoDaddy Pro, the home of managed WordPress hosting that includes free domain, SSL, and 24/7 support. Bundle that with the Hub by GoDaddy Pro to unlock more free benefits to manage multiple sites in one place, invoice clients, and get 30% off new purchases. Find out more at go.me/WP Builds. And by Bluehost. Redefine your web hosting experience with Bluehost Cloud. Managed WordPress hosting that comes with lightning-fast websites, 100% network uptime, and 24/7 priority support. With Bluehost Cloud, the possibilities are out of this world. Experience it today at bluehost.com/cloud. And by Omnisend. Do you sell your stuff online? Then meet Omnisend. Yes, that Omnisend. The email and SMS tool that helps you make $73 for every dollar spent. The one that's so good, it's almost boring. Hate the excitement of roller coaster sales? Prefer a steady line going up? Try Omnisend today at omnisend.com. Hello there, and welcome to the second edition of the Accessibility Show, which I'm doing every few weeks, hopefully, with Joe Dolson. There is Joe. How are you doing, Joe?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here again.
Yeah, I'm really pleased that you are. We had our first episode where we looked at mobile menu toggles several weeks ago now. Subsequently, I met up with you at WordCamp US. That was nice. But we're back, and we're going to talk about something a little bit different today. If you're interested in finding the content, we've got a YouTube channel, but go to wpbuilds.com and search in the menu, and in the archives menu, you can see the Accessibility Show. If you click in there, there's an archive, and hopefully you'll be able to locate the episodes. And hopefully, I think the last episode was well received. Certainly in the WordPress community that I know of, people thought it was a really credible show and they thought it was a good idea. So we're going to press on. How was it received in the sort of accessibility side of things? Did you get any feedback?
I got some feedback, yeah,
Oh,
and
nice.
it was positive. It
Good.
got shared in some fairly prominent places,
Nice.
some lists that have been going on for many, many years of new things and published in accessibility. So I think it was well received. I think it was novel in that it was so focused, just one issue, just tight, and I think that was something that was appreciated.
Okay, well, perfect. Well, that's the endeavor. We're going to try and focus on one particular thing for each episode and keep it to about 30 minutes, so you should be able to consume it fairly quickly. We're going to share Joe's screen, and when Joe's screen is shared, obviously whatever is on his screen, you will see. Hopefully it'll be fairly straightforward. I'll try and interrupt if I'm confused in any way, but shall I share your screen, Joe, whilst you tell us what it is that we're going to be looking at this time
Sure,
around?
go for it.
Okay.
So this show, first of all, I'm going to continue slightly with this whole mobile menu toggle idea from the last show. I'm going to show one that's pretty good. It's not perfect, but it's not going to cause any barriers. It's a good experience.
Nice.
And then I'm going to segue from that into taking a look at navigation menus themselves. Because of course, once you have a menu, great, you can open it and close it, but can you in fact use the menu itself? In this case, I'm not looking at the mobile menu. I'm going to look at the desktop menu. But these are very important things. The key thing about using any website is, can I get around?
Right.
So the characteristics generally of a navigation menu are going to be, that it is in a navigation landmark, that navigation landmark has a name that's meaningful, so that when a screen reader enters it, for example, it tells them, this is a navigation region. It's called main. So that's great. I now know I'm in the main menu. Then you should have visible focus. You should be able to tell where you are. And then, if it has sub-menus or a mega menu, you should be able to get into those and find out what those are. So let's look at a handful of these menus and see what we've got. The first site I'm going to look at is this site called buyrightmarket.com. And this is a thing that was actually specifically inspired by going to WordCamp US. Because Amber Hines and Brian Cords used this site for one of Jamie Marsland's very fun live shows of speed builds.
Nice.
And as I was looking at it, I was like, this site has some interesting characteristics that would be fun to take a look at. So first things first, I'm going to take a look at this mobile menu. So let's just flip ourselves into our mobile view.
Okie doke.
So here we are. We've got our mobile menu. I'll inspect that just to find out what it is. And one of the things you find out right away is it is in fact a button. Great. That means it is automatically going to be keyboard accessible unless they've done something really weird, which they haven't. Additionally, I'll notice it has an ARIA expanded attribute. So that tells me that the user on encountering this button will be immediately notified whether or not it is in fact open. Using the keyboard, it's got a skipped content link, that's great. It does have a focus state. It's a little bit light for my taste, but you can see that it changes. So at least there is something going on there.
Yeah, yeah.
Then I hit enter and it opens. I hit enter again and it closes. So, this is working effectively. Now I just lost myself, but that's my fault because I clicked somewhere I shouldn't have. So I'll get back to that. Now I'm in it. I can navigate down. I can get into the menu and I hit escape and I can close it.
Nice.
So essentially, that's a pretty good navigation for a mobile view. I'll continue to say it's not perfect. It does a lot of things that are good, but it doesn't constrain focus. So when I'm tabbing through that menu, I could end up leaving it and getting lost in the page. That isn't disastrous because it also still closes on escape, even though it's not currently focused. So it could be a lot worse. And the focus states within the menu and for the button itself are pretty light. I don't really care for that. But it does work. It is functional. Now, let's take a quick look at their desktop menu. Now, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to look at see what do we have in the way of landmark regions on this page. So now this menu, it does not show up as being in a navigation landmark, although up here in the corner, we do have a landmark that's a navigation landmark. Now, that I would consider a major negative. If you're going to have only one navigation landmark, it really should be the main navigation. This is on this, little utility navigation in the upper right corner. Second, the accessible name of this navigation landmark, if you can see that, it's very small.
I can, yeah. Yep.
It's site navigation : top navigation. So first of all, the word navigation should never be in your ARIA label that gives that accessible name for a navigation region, because that is already announced by the screen reader. So literally what this is going to be announced as when you're reading it in NVDA is site navigation, top navigation, navigation landmark.
Right, it's a lot of navigations.
I do think, somebody will definitely get the idea that this is navigation. But the main navigation doesn't have a navigation landmark, so it's not findable using landmark navigation, and it's not going to be announced as navigation when you enter it. So that's kind of a bummer.
Okay.
So let's look at it and see a little bit of what we can do using the keyboard. So I'm turning on pressed keys so I can keep track of where I am. I'm going to tab around. You can see here, I was right there. I'm in the locations and contact us. So next, I'm kind of expecting to get to the menu. It does have a focus state here, but there aren't any drop-downs. So are there
No.
drop-downs on this? Ooh,
There
there
certainly
are.
are, yeah.
There are definitely drop-downs. They are not visible. Now, are these buttons? Perhaps they're buttons, and I should click on it. Oh, but when I clicked on it, it actually
You
did
went through,
navigate me
yeah.
to the page, which is not what I wanted to do. And I'm also going to note that this is actually working. This is opening the dropdown. It didn't in my previous test, which was on a different browser. This is on Chrome. I previously tested it on Firefox.
Oh, interesting.
And so that's actually an inconsistency. And that means that people are going to have a different experience depending on what they're doing. However, the fact that it actually opens up that page creates some problems. I just triggered it in a way that it will not open that page. So let's see if I can get into this menu. Ooh, I can. I have some doubts about that color contrast, mind you.
Yeah, it's very
Now that I've
pale, isn't
gotten
it?
into it, I can't really see what it is. This is going to be particularly a problem for people who have, very low vision. It's going to be a problem for people with, um, particularly if they're using a tight zoom where they can only see what they're actually focused on, and you don't see it until you get to it, and you can't see it then. So this is questionable. So on the whole, it does kind of work. It's unreliable. It clearly does not work in all browsers, um, and it's got some fuzziness about it.
Hmm.
It's okay. It's not the worst I've ever seen. So let's move on to another one. I'm going to take a look now at a different site.
Whilst you're getting that ready, I will just say that if you want to find the show notes for this, if you head to wpbuilds.com, search for probably just the keyword Joe Dolson, and then the episodes will come up, and we will provide the links in the show notes. So hopefully you can locate them. Yeah.
All
All
right,
right.
here we are on our next site. This is shop.oradodalpozzo.it.
Okay.
This is, and I'll just say, this is like all of the sites I'm picking, one that's been selected from the WordPress Showcase.
Thank you.
So you can find this in the WordPress Showcase if you want to take a look at it and see more of it, or go to that URL. First things first, once again, I'm going to check and see whether we have a navigation landmark. And once again, we don't. We do have a landmark. We have a banner landmark that doesn't appear to contain anything, and really nothing else. One of the general rules of using landmarks is that if you use landmarks, all content on the page should be wrapped in a landmark. It is
Oh,
not
okay. Right. Yeah.
required
Yeah.
to use a landmark, but landmarks, the idea of landmarks is that a user with a screen reader can trigger a landmark navigation and just jump from the main sections of a page freely and find everything. And the key thing there is they should be able to find everything by going through the landmarks. There shouldn't be anything that's orphaned and not in a landmark. I don't think any user would think this had landmarks since it appeared to only have one.
Right.
So
Got
they
it.
would be suspicious pretty quickly. But so no navigation landmark. That's inconvenient. Now let's try out the focus states. I'm not seeing anything
Oh,
here.
you're not getting anywhere there, are you? It's
I'm
just
tabbing
not.
through, no idea where I am, no clue at all. I can see from monitoring the actual address that I'm on in the footer of the browser, way down here,
Yeah.
that I was just on a Facebook link.
Facebook link. Yeah, I saw
I
that.
haven't the
Yeah.
faintest idea where this Facebook link might be. I don't see it anywhere.
It's the kind of
So
thing you
those
would
are
see
some
in a
clues.
footer or something, but I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, I don't see it
So these
anywhere.
are interesting clues. They certainly suggest there's something fishy here. One of the things it suggests to me is that there is content here that's been hidden, but isn't actually hidden. It's still in the DOM, so it can be accessed by the keyboard. It can be accessed by a screen reader, but it is not visible. So let's try and figure out where that actually is. So I do know that this is a toggle button because I looked at this in advance. So what does that code look like? It is a
Oh,
link with a JavaScript trigger. It has no ARIA expanded. It's not going to tell you whether it's open or closed. It's going to tell you it's a link. It doesn't have a roll of button. It isn't a button. So you're going to expect it to link to something. It does not do that. So already this is going to be a problem. You can get to it. It's difficult because you don't really know where you are, but it's possible. Oh, that was something else. I don't know what that was. I'm going to try and get to this. Nope.
oh,
Okay. I'm not going to try and get to that with the keyboard because it's too much work. That should tell you something. All right. Now I've opened it. Well, there's clearly a contrast problem here. I mean,
yep,
all of these are
yeah.
very, very light, very pale. You can see that this is opening a whole bunch of additional stuff. So let's see if we can get to that. I'm focused on this right now.
Uh-huh.
So in theory, I should be navigating into the menu. And I did. So I can see I've focused on the close button. That's a good sign. Now what happens next?
This is nail
Uh,
biting.
nothing. Nothing in particular. I'm on a bunch of JavaScript stuff. I don't know what it is. Let's see what that does. I don't have any idea what that
You went to
was.
a category,
I went to a
something,
page.
a
By
different
clicking on
page.
some random JavaScript behavior, I went to some random page. I don't know what happened. I'm
Okay,
gonna have
so
to do
can I
some
just make a point at this point, right? We're
Yeah,
sort of having a bit of a laugh here, aren't we? Because it's
right.
kind of interesting. But I guess the serious point here is this is really frustrating.
This is very frustrating. If you are
Yeah,
trying to navigate this without having a mouse, you basically are dead in the water. You
yeah,
can't get anywhere.
yeah.
So I'm just going to do a few inspections here and just take a look at what's actually going on here so we can talk about it. This close button, this is the one thing I did focus on.
You did,
It
yeah.
is in fact a button. That's great. Uh, does it have an accessible name? Let's find out. Um,
Oh, you've increased the size of your. There we go.
it does not. There's nothing
No.
in here that provides any kind of naming. It's the character inside it is an SVG. That SVG does not have a title element, so there is no name of this button. You can get to it, but you're not going to know what it does. These are interesting. So if you do navigate into this, and I secretly looked at this in advance.
Oh, good for you. That's good.
And here's the thing. You can actually tab into this menu and you can get through this stuff. The thing is, all of these links, there are tons and tons and tons of them. They are all in the DOM permanently. They've been
Okay.
hidden using opacity, and that's how all of the hiding is being done on this site, which means that they're just invisible. If you're tabbing through, you're going to go through every single one of these links on your way through to get to the page.
So we're probably looking at what, 30 on that submenu, and then if
Alone,
you go to the
yeah.
other
I mean,
one, okay, another
there's a
30-ish.
lot. I mean, this is just a ton of stuff. And I mean, this is an
This is the
index of
whole alphabet.
letters.
There, oh,
God,
hang on.
again,
Yeah, there we
I
go.
accidentally clicked on something. So yeah, this is a labor-intensive menu. If you're using this with a screen reader, whew, if
You
you're
got to go
using it
through
with a
all of them.
keyboard, you
There's
can't get
hundreds,
anything, you
hundreds.
can't
Yeah.
find anything, you
Okay.
can't get anywhere. So yeah, I would just classify this as a menu that is incredibly frustrating. I have not much else to say about that one. It
Okay.
would
No, that's
be
fine.
a
That's fine.
terrible experience.
Okay, so we're going for another one, which I believe we did last time. Actually, I think this website came up last
Yeah,
time.
I think we may have looked at this one
Yeah,
before.
we did. Yep.
But the thing is, it was really unique in its top level menu, so it's really well worth looking at again.
Okay. Nice.
Now I'm going to do this one a little bit differently because I want to show you what the expanded menu is before I start trying to explore it.
Okay.
So you can click on any of these top level items and they all open the same menu.
Huh,
Because the
that
way
is
this is
unique.
So it's basically, this is the artwork stuff, this is the Akarian shop, this is the museum stuff, uh, and they just all open whenever you
So that's
open.
really bound to the viewport, isn't it? If the
It
viewport
is.
is wide, then it works, and if not,
Um,
then I'm guessing it doesn't.
and actually, the internal structure of this is pretty standard.
Okay, good.
This is a submenu list that's nested inside this list item.
Oh, right. Okay,
So the
great.
structure is the same as any other WordPress menu. It just
Got it.
looks really different.
Hmm.
Now we're going to take a look at this using the keyboard because it's a little unique.
So I should say this is nogucci.org, another showcase website. Okay.
All right, so you can open it. Great. You can't close it with the keyboard. So, and I've now opened it. I have not been able to find any way of closing it. I can press the escape key. I'm going to turn on my
Oh,
pressed keys so you can see what I'm doing.
yeah.
Doesn't do anything. There's no close button. So the only thing I can do at this point is actually go to a link or just keep navigating through. But now, because I've navigated out of the menu, it's hidden. The way
Got
you
it.
close it is by clicking anywhere outside of the menu, but it's the only way. It requires an event click on something. So you can't close it. Now, what happens if you don't open the menu?
What? What?
Yeah, it just disappears.
It just went away.
And that's because it's a bit messed up. What happened is this is another case where that submenu is not actually removed from the DOM. So what I focused on there was biography. So when I tabbed past Isamu Noguchi, it
Yeah.
went to biography.
Okay.
Biography was in an invisible zone, so it's now focused in an invisible space. And I have no idea why the entire rest of the menu disappeared.
Okay.
That all I can tell you is
it did.
that would be a bug that I would have to explore at length. And I
Okay.
thought it was really interesting, but I
Yeah.
have no idea what it was.
Oh gosh. Yeah, that certainly was interesting. So we're stuck. We're trapped inside this menu, basically. No
Right.
way out.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's the interesting thing is because these links here, these are just standard links. They are not going to inform you that they are actually being used as a button, that they're a toggle in some way. They don't have an ARIA expanded attribute. They don't have a role equals button. So as a user, if I'm just navigating with the keyboard, I am not going to get to that link and say, I need to click on this to expand the menu. I'm going to say, oh, Isamu Noguchi, I wonder what else is in this menu. And I'm going to tab. And now I'm like,
Yeah.
what just happened?
Yeah, I'm lost. I've just been transported.
So it's always fun.
Yeah.
That classifies as just a fun, unique experience exploring the
Never
menu.
to be seen again. Yeah,
Yeah.
literally.
So this is just kind of an example of things that can happen with a menu if you're not really anticipating controls. I mean, and so much of that would be resolved if that link simply was actually mapped to be, hey, there's a button and had already expanded. And then when a user gets to it, they're like, I now have expectations of what this button will do. I expect that it will open something. It's going to toggle something open. I'm not going to expect that I can just do something extra. And also having that submenu actually removed from the DOM means you don't suddenly focus on this abstract area and trigger the unknown bug that I'm not going to go into detail on because I would be making stuff up.
Yeah, well, that's fine. So, okay, interesting things that you've discovered there. Is there any more on this website, or do you want to go on?
No, I think that's it for this website. I'm going to go on to the next one.
Which is it looks
this
like
is newsroom.spotify.com.
Gosh, is this their like PR department or something?
I assume so.
Yeah,
I
something
mean,
like that.
It kind of makes sense. So I didn't do this on the last one because mostly I wanted to make sure we got to the kind of weird bug. But landmarks, let's take a look. Again, we don't have a navigation landmark. In this case, we do have a whole bunch of landmarks. So people will actually navigate this expecting that the landmarks do something. And they will. I mean, you'll sort of find it because the navigation is inside the banner and you can maybe intuit that, but it's not helpful. It's not going to be the best way of finding it. So let's take a look at how this actually navigates with the keyboard. First of all, it does have a focus state. It's pretty clear. I think that's pretty straightforward. So, yay. Next, I can open this submenu. It's a nice big submenu. I fully expect when I hit tab, I will either go to the close in the upper right corner or to news and announcements. Either of those would be somewhat reasonable. I did not.
Oh, Joe, do you want to put your pressed keys on again?
Oh, sure. I'll put the pressed keys on. Why not?
Thank you.
Anyway, so as you see, what actually happened is I went to the company dropdown.
Okay,
so the navigation did not go into news and announcements or to the close button. It went to company. Okay, well, so that suggests that this is, kind of a weird order. What's going to happen next? Okay, now I went to search and now the menu closed. So I'm not clear. How would I actually get into this menu with the keyboard? I hit company, I hit next, I'm in the search, but the menu's closed.
Right.
So
Right.
this is a pretty significant focus order problem. Essentially, um, what really should be happening is one of two things. When you open this menu, either it should be dynamically managing focus so that the next focus point is inside that submenu, or that submenu should be in the document object model next after the news, so that when you hit that tab key, it just goes into the menu that you've just opened.
Right. Right.
Instead, you don't have any apparent mode to actually get into that. There's nothing there. That's also true of the company. You can't get to that menu. And then in the search, which I didn't address yet, it's got this nice little quick list of popular topics, which you also can't get to,
Oh, gosh.
because as soon as you tab, it goes to the submit button, which is great. It's got a submit button, yay. But it closes the information. So this is just mismanagement of when things close. Things are in the wrong place, they close at the wrong time. It makes things difficult. Now, as far as where this is actually located, let's just take a quick look. This drop-down pane is located in a container. It's in a whole row right after the container that contains the menu.
Okay.
So that means, it's close by, but it is not next. It
Got it.
should be left open until somebody gets to it. It should be probably needs some focus management. This is behaving kind of like a modal because it closes. It hides everything behind it. Not exactly a modal, but it's kind of like that. Um, so it probably also needs to constrain focus. I'll see if it does that. I'm going to say it does not. I've just jumped to the next content. This is now, because it's behind the scrim, it's not really very readable.
Yeah.
So you're in a place, but you can't really see what you're doing. And it doesn't close with escape, so you're just kind of lost. So I will also note that in that navigation, I never did get to the close button.
Let's see if you can finally get there.
Nope, I
Nope.
cannot get to the
Nope.
close button.
Nope.
So what is this? The close button, it is an anchor element,
Okay. It's not a button.
but it's an anchor element with no href attribute. And what that means is it's not a link. So the A element, it's called the anchor element, is not the link element. It behaves as a link if it has an href attribute, and it behaves as a target if it doesn't. Back in the old days, before we targeted everything using an ID on like a div or a heading, you would target something by putting an A with a name
Yeah.
attribute.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was the anchor. That's A with a name attribute is an anchor. It's a place where you can land somebody. But because it doesn't have an href, it is not something you can focus on. You can't tab to it. This is a common error because people assume that because the A element is used for links, that it's natively accessible, you can tab to it automatically. But that is only true if it has an href attribute, and this does not. So even if somebody managed to get into this, they would have a hard time closing it.
Gosh.
So if they could get back into that main menu, they could close it very quickly because as soon as they changed focus,
Yeah.
it was
It's kind of a learned
so,
behavior.
I feel like that's going to create a pretty poor experience. This is a creative menu, and there's no reason it can't be accessible. With some minor focus management, they could have made this exact same interface totally reasonably accessible. It could be completely predictable. But they didn't. And that's the common case. Just to take a quick look at the triggers, those are actually pretty solid. They do tell you that they trigger stuff. It's a link, which is not ideal, but it has aria has popup equals true and
Mhm.
aria expanded.
Mhm.
So it's going to tell you what the state of what it's controlling it is. It's going to give you a clue about what it does by bringing up a pop-up. People will be able to figure that out. It even has an aria controls attribute, which tells you what it controls, though in terms of actual accessibility consequences, that has almost no application anywhere. but it is a good thing to have. But it, unfortunately, because you can't actually get to that, it's told you all this stuff, but it is effectively a lie. Yeah, fun with menus.
Yeah,
There's
indeed.
all these different ways that people can create menus that look really cool, but when it comes right down to it, you can't use them.
Yeah, they're not working. They're
There's
not
also a
working.
fun thing in this one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that fun animation. I
Oh,
don't
ooh.
that's interesting. But if you look at the code for this,
Oh, it's
the way they've done that is every single letter
oh
is wrapped in a
my
separate
word.
span of a separate line. So I'm going to tell you how this will be read by a screen reader,
Oh,
and
no.
it's letter by letter. If you're doing a line reading, you're using your arrow keys to navigate through this. You're going to read NEWS ampersand AN, and it's going to go on forever. Because all so that they could have this cute
That
animation.
fun little animation so that it can sort of scroll up
Yep.
from the start to the end. My word, the spider's webs that we weave, in order
Yep.
to try
Yep.
and get a new
Try and do something
menu on.
clever, and the end
Yeah.
result is we've made an experience that is very painful for a certain subset of users. So that's what I've got for today. I just picked out 4 to look at. I wanted to pick 4 that all had somewhat unique, different types of navigation issues, and I think you saw some fun experiences.
Nice. I appreciate that. I've taken the screen away, so it's just you and I now. But firstly, I would say a great big thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. It's amazing
Happy.
you coming on and giving us all of this wisdom for free. Joe, where can we find you if people want to make contact with you? You never know; it may be the people who run those websites.
Maybe.
How would we find you?
So you can find my website is joedolson.com. You can find me on Twitter or X, whatever, at Joe Dolson. You can find me on Mastodon at, I better check that. I think it's toot.io.
I think, is it Toots with a plural? I can't remember. I'll
Toot.io
Okay.
is what WP Accessibility Day is on.
Okay.
Well, you can find me at WP Accessibility Day
Let's
at
go with that.
wpaccessibility.day. Let me just try that again.
Yeah, it's okay.
wpaccessibilityday.d.
No, it's W. I'm going to do it for you.
God, I can't do this. I can't speak
I'll do it. It's 2024. So clear what you've got in your browser URL.
Yeah.
Type in 2024, the numbers dot WP accessibility dot day. And,
see, all I have to type is 2 because I've done it
yeah, and then
so
it
many
just
times.
comes up. That's right. Yeah. So thank you. Hopefully you'll get into a conversation with some people who've watched this. If you've got any intuitions about it, please head to our website wpbuilds.com, search for Joe's name top right, and hopefully some of the bits and pieces that he's done with me will show up and you can leave a comment there. The other thing to say is these websites came off the WordPress showcase. Again, I'll link to that. And a caveat that we didn't add in this episode, but we did in a previous one. The intention here is not to bang people over the head with a stick and make people feel miserable about their endeavors. The intention here is to show real world examples of how it can be crazy making and frustrating and convoluted for people who use assistive technology. And I think you demonstrated that really well in that episode. So we'll be back. Don't know when, but it'll be in a few weeks' time, hopefully. And I'll join you again and we'll do episode 3. Joe, thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to it.
Take care.
Thank you.